In the mist of time, a world awaits. A century of transformation is about to begin. Where empires clashed and kingdoms fell, where the blood of warriors soaked the earth, and history was written in steel. Armies of conquest swept across continents, from the steppes of Asia to the shores of distant lands. Their stories preserved in ancient texts, chronicles of glory and chronicles of ruin. A storm was coming, a century that would reshape the world forever. Warriors from distant lands, conquerors with different faiths, all seeking glory, all seeking power. The year 1000, the world stood at a crossroads. East and West poised for collision. Crowns would change heads, thrones would be seized, and the fate of nations would be decided. From the pages of history emerges a tale of conquest, faith, and the relentless march of civilization. Two worlds, two visions. Their collision would echo through the centuries to our present day. This is the story of 100 years that changed everything. This is the 11th century. Constantinople, Queen of Cities. For 700 years, her walls had never fallen. The heart of the Byzantine Empire. Within these golden halls, emperors ruled over the last remnants of Rome. A civilization of unmatched splendor. Art and faith intertwined. Every tile placed with devotion. A testament to Byzantine glory. To the east lay Baghdad, once the greatest city on earth, center of Islamic learning and culture. Here, scholars preserved ancient wisdom, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, knowledge that would later enlighten Europe. The Islamic world stretched from Spain to the borders of India, but it was divided and vulnerable. Far to the east, China flourished. The Song dynasty presided over the most advanced civilization on earth. Printing with movable type, an invention that would one day transform the world. Born here in China. The magnetic compass guided Chinese ships across vast oceans. Maritime technology centuries ahead of the West. In India, ancient temples rose toward the heavens, a land of immense wealth and spiritual devotion. Rajput kingdoms guarded the north, proud warriors unaware of the storm gathering beyond the mountains. And Europe? A backwater, fragmented into countless feudal territories, far behind the great civilizations of the East. Its people toiled in fields. Life was short and harsh, but change was coming. East and West, worlds apart. Yet this century would begin to close that gap forever. This was the world in the year 1000, balanced on the edge of transformation, waiting for what was to come. In the mountains of Afghanistan, a conqueror was rising. His name would be remembered across centuries, Mahmud of Ghazni. From this throne, he would launch campaigns that would reshape South Asia, a warrior king with limitless ambition. His sword would strike terror into the hearts of kingdoms. 17 times he would cross the mountains into India. His armies were legendary, battle-hardened warriors from the Afghan highlands, cavalry that swept all before them. Through the treacherous Khyber Pass they marched, the ancient gateway between Central Asia and India. Year after year, the raids continued. Wealthy cities fell. Treasures beyond imagination carried back to Ghazni. Indian kingdoms watched in fear. When the dust clouds rose on the horizon, Mahmud was coming. His cavalry charges were devastating. Swift, brutal, and unstoppable. No army could stand before them. Battle after battle, victory after victory. The Ghaznavid war machine proved invincible on the plains of India. In 1025 came his greatest prize, Somnath, one of the holiest temples in all of India. His army crossed 1,000 miles of burning desert. Many thought the journey impossible. Mahmud proved them wrong. The temple fell, its defenders overwhelmed. What happened next would become legend. The treasures seized were staggering. Gold, jewels, and precious artifacts accumulated over centuries. All now belonged to Mahmud. Caravans of wealth wound their way back through the mountain passes, the plunder of a civilization heading to Ghazni. With this wealth, Mahmud transformed his capital. Ghazni became a center of culture, art, and Persian learning. Scholars gathered at his court, among them Al-Biruni, one of history's greatest minds who studied India with scientific precision. Mahmud died in 1030. His empire would fragment, but the path he carved into India, others would follow. From the endless grasslands of Central Asia, another force was rising. Horsemen who would reshape the Middle East forever. The Seljuk Turks, nomadic warriors who lived by the horse and the bow. Their destiny lay to the west. From childhood they trained for war, archery from horseback, a deadly skill that made them nearly invincible. In tribal councils, great decisions were made. The Seljuks would migrate west and conquer an empire. Entire tribes moved as one. Men, women, children, and their vast herds, a nation on the march. At Dandanakan in 1040, they crushed the Ghaznavid army. The gates to Persia now stood open. Within years, they had conquered Persia. Then Iraq. Nothing could stop their relentless advance. In 1055, they entered Baghdad, not as destroyers, but as new masters of the Islamic world. The Caliph granted their leader the title Sultan, religious authority blessed with military might, a powerful combination. The Vizier Nizam al-Mulk brought order to conquest, building institutions that would outlast the Seljuks themselves. Under Sultan Alp Arslan, the Seljuk Empire reached its zenith, from Afghanistan to the Mediterranean. But now they faced their greatest challenge, the Byzantine Empire, heir to Rome itself. August 1071, Manzikert in eastern Anatolia. Two empires faced each other across a dusty plain. The Seljuk tactics were devastating. Mobile horse archers against heavily armored infantry. The Byzantines could not adapt. The Byzantine army shattered. Soldiers fled in panic. It was the worst Roman defeat in 800 years. Emperor Romanos himself was captured, the first Roman emperor to fall into enemy hands in centuries. Anatolia lay open to Turkish migration. The region would become Turkey. The consequences echo to this day. But before the Crusades, another rupture would divide Christendom, one that has never been healed. In the East, the Orthodox Church, ancient tradition stretching back to the Apostles, rich in ritual and mystery. In the West, the Roman Church, the Pope claiming supreme authority over all Christians everywhere. For centuries, tensions had grown, theological disputes, ritual differences, but above all, a question of power. The Patriarch of Constantinople would not bow to Rome. The Pope would not accept an equal. Even the bread of communion divided them, unleavened in the West, leavened in the East, symbols of deeper rifts. In 1054, papal legates arrived in Constantinople. They carried a document that would shatter Christendom. Upon the altar of the Hagia Sophia, they placed a bull of excommunication. The Patriarch was cast out. 69. The Patriarch responded in kind, excommunicating the Pope himself. The break was complete. Christianity was now divided. Catholic West, Orthodox East, a schism that endures to this very day. When Crusaders marched east, they would find not brothers in faith, but rivals. The schism's bitter fruit. Across the sea lay England, an island kingdom about to face invasion from three directions at once. In January 1066, King Edward the Confessor died. He left no heir, only chaos. Harold Godwinson seized the crown, the most powerful English nobleman, now King of England. Across the Channel, William of Normandy raged. He claimed Edward had promised him the throne. He would take it by force. From Norway came Harald Hardrada, the last great Viking warrior. He too wanted England's crown. Harold faced invasion from north and south. He could not be everywhere. He had to choose. The Vikings struck first. Harold Hardrada landed in the north with a massive army. The final Viking invasion had begun. At Stamford Bridge, Harold crushed the Vikings. Legend says one Viking held the bridge alone against the entire English army. Harold Hardrada fell in battle. The Viking age in England was over, but Harold's trials had just begun. 3 days later, William landed in the south, perhaps the largest invasion fleet since the Romans. England's fate hung in the balance. Norman knights, war horses, and archers poured onto English soil. William had come to claim his crown. Harold force-marched his exhausted army 250 miles south. There was no time to rest. October 14th, 1066, on a hill near Hastings, the two armies faced each other. England's future would be decided here. All day the battle raged. Norman cavalry charged again and again. The English shield wall held firm. Then Harold fell. An arrow to the eye, according to legend. The English army broke. William had won. William was crowned on Christmas Day. The Norman Conquest transformed England. Its effects are still felt today. Norman castles rose across England, symbols of conquest, instruments of control. England would never be the same. 30 years later, in 1095, another gathering would change history. The Council of Clermont. Pope Urban II issued a call to arms. Christians must march east and liberate Jerusalem from Muslim rule. The response was electric. God wills it, they cried. Thousands sewed crosses onto their clothing. The crusade had begun. Knights prepared for holy war. Nobles sold their lands. The greatest military expedition in medieval history was forming. Tens of thousands took the cross, rich and poor, knights and peasants, all marching toward the Holy Land. Across Europe they marched, through Constantinople, into the hostile lands of Anatolia, a journey of thousands of miles. The journey was brutal. Heat, hunger, and disease claimed thousands. Many never saw the Holy Land. But faith sustained them. In camp, they prayed. Tomorrow they might die, but they believed God was with them. In 1097, they reached Antioch, one of the greatest cities in the world. Its walls seemed impregnable. For 8 months they besieged the city. Starvation, disease, and despair. Many thought all was lost. Then, through treachery, the walls were breached. Antioch fell, the first great victory of the crusade. And then they saw her, Jerusalem, the holy city. Warriors wept at the sight. Their goal was within reach. July 1099, the final siege began. The Crusaders threw everything they had at Jerusalem's ancient walls. On July 15th, the walls were breached. Crusaders poured into the city. Jerusalem had fallen. At the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, knights knelt in prayer. The tomb of Christ was in Christian hands once more. Christian kingdoms were established along the coast. Jerusalem, Antioch, Tripoli, Edessa, outposts of the west and the heart of the east. Mighty castles guarded these new realms. For 2 centuries, Crusaders would defend them, but their time would eventually end. But the 11th century was not only about war. In China, the Song dynasty presided over a golden age. The compass, paper money, gunpowder, inventions that would later transform the entire world. Born in China. In South India, the Chola dynasty built a maritime empire. Their fleets dominated the Indian Ocean. Chola power reached Southeast Asia, a naval empire unlike anything India had seen before. In Africa, the Kingdom of Ghana controlled the gold trade, one of the wealthiest kingdoms in the world. Caravans crossed the vast Sahara, gold from the south, salt from the north. Trade that built empires. In Japan, the Heian period reached its height. Lady Murasaki wrote the tale of Genji, often called the world's first novel. Across the globe, civilizations flourished, each with its own achievements, each shaping the world to come. The 11th century was truly a global turning point, not just in the West, but everywhere. Empires rose, empires fell. Battles decided the fate of nations, and the medieval world took shape. The borders drawn in this century would shape politics for 1,000 years. The stories told here are still with us, in our languages, our borders, our conflicts. This was the century that changed everything. This was the 11th century.